Well, this is the video about the absolute worst part of Matt Chandler's ERLC Gospel Coalition MLK 50 speech, in my opinion, of course. But we're going to jump right to this. This will probably be the last response video I do on the Matt Chandler thing, unless there's some request, unless somebody says, hey, I'd like to hear what your response is on this part of the thing. If you do, just contact me, and I'll be glad to do it. But this section was very disappointing, and I'll just play it, and we'll jump right in. I think Matt Chandler here says something very unintentionally racist. And I don't think he meant this in a way to be racist, but I'll be honest, I know what it's like to be triggered, because this triggered me. So let's just play it, and we'll go forward from there.
Number two on the way forward is not just that white pastors must say something regardless of the cost, but I think a lot of this is going to hinge on relationships. And now I want to clarify something. I am not asking you to find the black person that agrees with you. Becoming friends with the African American that agrees with everything you say isn't helpful to you as a white evangelical, and probably has that African American trying to win approval or position.
You know, even in this moment, I've seen this a few times, and even in this moment, I can in my soul, I can feel this just disappointment and anger. I have anger about what he said there. You know, and I know people who know Matt Chandler personally. Brothers, I beg you, call this man out on this. Because what he said there, he said, don't talk to someone. I'm not asking you to go talk to someone a black person who agrees with you on everything. Because if they do, that's not going to be helpful to you, number one. And number two, that black person is probably trying to win the white man's approval. He's trying to get position. Now, I know he's not talking about Latinos here, but I'm sure he'd say the same thing about Latinos. What angers me about that is it just robs us of our agency. It robs us of our own minds, our own reason, as if there are ways that Latinos and blacks, they're not supposed to think. They're not supposed to think in certain ways. And there's this white mentality, and there's this black mentality, and there's this Latino mentality, and never the twain shall meet. Because if a Latino disagrees with social justice warriors, well, they're thinking like a white man. You see how arrogant this is, how condescending it is, and it's unintentionally racist. For this man to sit here and say, well, I know better than those black brothers who disagree with me on this. I know that they're secretly, they don't really disagree with me. They're just trying to win position. They're just trying to jockey for position and get white people's approval. It's a racist statement. It's a racist statement. I don't think he meant that intentionally to be a racist statement, but it was. Which is almost worse, right? When somebody says something that's just so racist and you know they didn't mean it, you can tell it's deep within them. Brothers, I beg you, if you know Matt Chandler, if you're watching this, you got to call him out on that. You have to. That's divisive. Divides, man. It's illogical. It's nonsensical. But you know what it is? It is red meat for his audience. He knows his audience very well, and you can even hear it. When he says that. He says, "Don't hire or don't talk to a black man who agrees with you on things." And this woman in the audience goes, "Hell yeah!" She shouts it out. "Hell yeah, woo!" You know. It's so disappointing. It's just so sad. It's just so sad. And I think to myself, like how can a pastor think in these terms? How can a pastor think like that with no evidence? No evidence that a black person did this. No evidence that I'm doing this currently. I'm trying to win white people's approval. No evidence of it. But he just says it, just throws it out there. You gotta think before you talk, man. You really gotta think before you talk. I just can't believe it. I mean, even now, you know, it angers me. It does. And it's just so disappointing. Because this is just how you keep a church divided forever. You say, hey, you know, And the other thing is, he probably doesn't listen to his own advice, because he's talking to people who agree with him on many things, and most things, right? Black people, Latinos who agree with him on social justice. Well, taking his own advice, wouldn't he have to hire or bring around him someone like me, who calls him to task on this stuff? Look, I'm Latino. I don't agree with you. I'm not trying to win your approval. Shouldn't you be talking to me? I don't know. I guess if he took his own advice, but I don't think he means it like that. What he means is, find a black guy who agrees with this social justice stuff, as if we're not allowed to disagree with it, or if we do, we're just being fake. You know what they call this? Now, Matt didn't use this term, and I'm grateful that he did not. But every black brother in Christ that agrees with me on this issue, who's on my side of this issue, who doesn't agree with the social justice stuff, who doesn't buy into the cultural Marxism, every black person who's conservative knows what this is describing. They've been called it before. This is called cooning. This is what it's called. Ask any conservative black person, and they're either called a house Negro or they're called a coon. I've been called these terms before. Matt Chandler didn't use that word, but he's absolutely in agreement with the mentality. Absolutely in agreement with the mentality. You might as well just use the word, because he described it exactly the way someone who opposes this would describe it. Yeah, you're just cooning for the white man. So disappointing that he would think in these terms, in the same exact terms. Again, I'm not accusing him of using that word, but he did. He basically said exactly the same thing. He just said it in a bunch of words instead of using that slur. I can't believe we've come to a place where this is acceptable and it's celebrated and cheered on. And I beg you, level-headed brothers in Christ, even if you disagree with me on this stuff, even if you disagree with me on social justice and all this stuff, you have to see this comment for what it is. Awful. Absolutely awful. Matt Chandler, how dare you? How dare you presume to know why I think the way I think? Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's the last comment I want to make on that. If you do have a request, if you want me to specifically respond to something Matt Chandler says in this video, or anybody really, send me a link, send me a message, and I'd be glad to do it. God bless. Hope this is helpful.